I'm going to explain why I have this picture frame in a moment. Stephanie, who's filming this, is also curious to know what I'm doing with this picture frame. We're going to talk about facial framing today, and what does that mean? I want to start with a story of a gentleman that came from another state for hair restoration. He actually came in for something else, and I told him his hair doesn't quite match his face. I can see the pattern doesn't quite work. And what I wanted to do for him actually was to make his face look better by doing a great frame to his face, which would be a hairline. A lot of times when we look at hair loss, we're so focused on the idea that the hair loss is what we need to replace, and just for the sake of putting hair up there. But the hair has to serve a purpose, and really, if it's just like a great nose, it's something you don't even notice. So the way I look at a great hair transplantation is to reframe the face. And if you think about it, I call something an elevator eyes, which means that when you don't have hair up here, your eye looks at the other person's eyes, then goes up toward the top of the head and goes all the way back. When there is a physical border of a frame of a good hairline, your eye goes back down to the eyes, or it never even goes up. It stays at the eyes. Remember that when we have a conversation, we want to be focused on each other's eyes. And so the loss of the upper frame is something that, in my opinion, is not good. So when we have a frame, our eye stays within the borders instead of darting across everywhere else, so that provides an upper frame. How about a lower frame? I had a gentleman come in just yesterday for a consultation for a chin implant. And actually, he's a great candidate, because what I looked at him is when you have nothing here, your eyes just drop off to the lower chin. A great chin implant should not be something that's actually even known. You don't even see the person had a chin implant. They just look better, and there's something about it. Your eye doesn't want to go lower to look down here because there's a frame. If there's nothing down here, your eye tends to fall off a cliff on the bottom, just like it falls off a cliff going up. So there's a bottom frame to that area. And the bottom frame to this area, all he needed was a large extended chin implant, a little bit of neck lipocontouring work, and the combination of both of those would provide a great lower frame to the face where your eye goes back to the eyes or never goes down. Now remember, the eye itself is one of the most important areas to frame, because when we look at the eye, that's the area that our interest should be. And unfortunately, most traditional eyelid surgery is unframing the eye, lifting away it, pulling it up, making it look unusual, heavy brow lifts, way overcut eyes, sucked out eyes, pulled back. In fact, this morning I just did a lady with fat transfer from the East Coast that had a very unframed eye, and I reframed it to give her back sort of that luscious look that was there before. Again, that's a very much harder concept to understand until you sit down with me, because I think the hairline and the chin makes a lot of sense. So I just want you to understand the concept of facial framing is so important. It's like just like any other picture. By the way, this beautiful hand-done Persian mini carpet was given to me by a wonderful patient, so that's why I'm using this here. And as a thank you, I just wanted to actually show this. But I wanted to have you understand that a very good strong frame in all the right places will bring your eye back to the most important part of attention, which are the eyes. And the eyes are actually another important area, as I mentioned, to be framed. So hopefully that concept of understanding a facial frame is helpful for you to understand beauty and how to bring our attention back to the most important part of our face, which are the eyes. I'm laughing because I was looking at the video just a second ago on the edit, and I'm too lazy to go reshoot another one, but my hair was sticking up a little crazy like, and so I just watered that down. But the reason I'm also reshooting this more part of the video is that I wanted to finish something. I was looking at the frame and I realized there was another point that I wanted to bring up. When you look at the frame, I really talked about the top and bottom portions, but there's a complete frame to the face. I don't want to get too much into how otoplasties and how cheeks frame the face. I think those are a component to this. I don't want to make this more elaborate, but I want to finish the idea of the hairline and the jaw a little bit more carefully. One is the fact that when I was looking at this frame, I realized that I was just talking about the hairline. And the real problem is that you need a temporal hairline. The temporal hairline going across here finishes the frame of the upper face. The biggest problem that I see oftentimes in a bad hair transplantation that looks unnatural and also doesn't properly frame the face is only working with the anterior hairline. If you don't rebuild the temples, you simply do not get potentially a natural result in some circumstances. If the hairline's low enough, the temples are far enough back, but not all the time. But also, if you do a good temporal rebuild, like I was in Montreal last year for a hair meeting, I mean, half the meeting was all talking about temporal rebuilds, and it really got me to even focus more astutely about the power of a temporal frame. So if you think about the frame, it's here. The lower frame of the face is principally really in the central area with the jaw, but also sometimes I reframe the outer portion of the face low down here on both sides using a little bit of fat transfer into the outer mandible, outer jawbone. That's particularly evident when someone's had a traditional facelift. My facelifts, I don't pull back, so you don't lose this contour out here, but mine are pulled vertically upwards. But the traditional facelift, where you take a little volume out here and you tighten this back here, in a person that's very gaunt will actually almost lose the shape of this outer frame. So I like to think in those individuals, this outer half the frame becomes very important to finish that frame. So there's a good 360 frame. So just a subtle, small addendum to what I was saying before, and hopefully that was helpful.